Welcome to creepy midnight whispers where shadows whisper and nightmares breathe. Tonight, the veil is thin, reality flickers. Something waits in the dark. Knock with no visitor. A voice when you're alone. These 6 true stories come from those who survived, barely. Tales that crawl under your skin, nest in your thoughts, and fester in the silence. Sleep if you can. But know this. Some horrors don't end when the sun rises. They follow, lurking, watching. And now, they're coming for you. Turn down the lights and listen closely because once you begin, there's no turning back. Story number 1. I started working at WMLK, the small-town radio station in Pine Ridge, Mississippi, 6 years ago. The sign outside says WMLK, your voice after dark. My shift was midnight to 6 in the morning. It was lonely. I loved it. Most people sleep. I listen, I talk. Music crackles, silence stretches. Occasionally someone calls in. Sometimes nothing at all. Routine becomes its own kind of comfort. Then one night everything changed. I remember the night clearly. It started humid. The kind of late summer heat that makes the air feel thick like syrup. The windows of the studio were open, but the fan only stirred the hot air in lazy circles. The lamp beside my desk glowed too bright against the darkness outside. Through the studio window, I could see the parking lot. 2 broken street lamps, 1 gutter downpour gurgling somewhere near the back. Freight trains rumbled in the distance, far enough that I only felt the vibration under my feet, not loud enough to worry. It was just after 2 in the morning. I had finished a set of slow blues songs, asked listeners to call if they were driving home feeling restless, lonely. I half expected the phone to stay silent. Instead, it rang. The board lights flickered when I reached over. I pressed the talk button. WMLK After Dark, you're on air, I said, voice calm, habitual. Silence, then a voice. Quiet, young, breathy. I need help, the voice said. I'm in room 103, I froze. A shiver traced my spine. Room 103. That was the old Crestview Motel on Route 14, 3 miles west of town. I drove past it maybe every other week when I was heading home late. It looked abandoned most of the time. The sign was half missing. Some letters flickered. Windows boarded. A few cars out front sometimes, but I always chalked it up to weekenders or local truckers. Room 103? I asked. I leaned forward, pressed the mute on the mic so the control room wouldn't pick up the trembling in my voice. Which Crestview Motel, caller? Silence, then a low rasp. Please, I can't get out. I switched mic back on. Are you alone in the room? I asked. My voice too loud in the silent studio? Yes. What's happening? Are you hurt? Another pause. Then something scratched, like fingernails on plaster, dull but close by. My heart thumped so loud I thought the control room engineers might hear. The lipstick red warning light blinked on air. I had to do something. I could not hang up. Stay calm, I said. This is your radio show. You're safe. Tell me your name. The caller did not respond immediately. I could hear a breathing, shallow and irregular. I tried to imagine who it was, a drifter? A child? A lost traveler? Then the room phone rang. All within the motel, I was certain. The static hissed. Oh God, the caller whispered. She's here. My hands tightened around the microphone stand. Who's here? No one should. The call cut off sharply. Static surged, harsh and abrasive, scratching through the headphones. I flipped through the mixer knobs, tried to clear the feed. Static didn't fade. It grew. A cold air seemed to hiss along the edges of the studio. My hair prickled. I closed my eyes for a moment, tension knotting inside me. When I opened them, the red light on the mixer flickered for a second, then went out. The studio was dark except for the glow of 1 lamp. The window still showed the parking lot, still murmured with distant rumblings, but the street lamps were out. Just black. Without conversation, I knew something had changed. I held the phone receiver to my ear. The caller line stayed open. Echoes of static. Then a voice came low, distorted like someone speaking through thick glass. It's not safe here, the voice said, softer than before. She won't stop, I asked. Who is she? I heard a creaking, as though floorboards pulled apart under weight. Something heavy moved just beyond the door to the studio, I thought. I tried to believe it was the air vent or the old wooden frame of the building settling. But the sound wasn't right. It dragged. Something alive. Something heavy, the voice repeated. She's coming. I'll call for help, I said. I pressed a button to reach the control room or maybe even 911. Nothing, no dial tone. My cell phone lay on the desk, screen dark, battery full. I picked it up, no signal. The studio's lights flickered. The fan slowed. The silence grew brittle. "Why are you here?" I asked. I needed some anchor in reality. "I checked in," the caller said. "They told me room 103 was empty." The clerk said construction. The room was closed. But I heard laughter. "Laughter?" I repeated. "Yes. A woman. Laughing. Soft. Taunting." My skin felt cold. Goosebumps rose. I glanced at the clock, 2:17 a.m., the margin between dreams and waking. The kind of hour when reason bends, when your mind plays tricks in half-light. I asked, "Do you remember your name?" The caller exhaled. "Marion." "Marion, stay with me. Did you see what she looks like?" There was a choke of breath. "She's pale. Her eyes shine, no smile. Hair long, wet." The static jumped. A whisper, "Don't come." My right leg twitched. I felt a presence in the room with me. Something beyond sound, lodged in the shadows behind the window shades. Heavy. Watching. I swallowed hard. Tried to tell myself I was being silly. I had a microphone, a broadcast insurance reason. But I felt fear. "I'm coming," I said. "No," Marion whispered. The line went dead. Silence. Pure and terrible. Then the phone clicked. The studio lights flickered and returned. The fan buzzed. Outside, the street lamps flared back to life. The static cleared. I rubbed my eyes. The parking lot looked empty again. No cars in front of Crestview Motel. No sign of occupancy at all. I stayed on the line, waiting for Marion to call back. I played soft background music, a piano piece, slowly, just in case she returned. But the phone did not ring. The caller ID showed unknown. I left it on. Then 4, then 5 minutes. My throat dry. Around dawn, I decided I needed to verify. I drove. My old truck's headlights cut through the early mist. The road twisted between fields, barns, and trees heavy with dew. The air smelled of damp earth and decaying leaves. The rising sun made the horizon pink, smeared this side, that side. I turned off into Crestview Lane. The Crestview Motel sign was there. The flickering V in motel missing. Paint peeling. Boarded windows empty. One lonely lamp over the door, dim and yellow. No cars in the lot. I parked. My boots made crunching sounds in gravel. I unlocked the door to the motel office. Key in hand, no lights, dust motes and shafts of light from cracked windows. The clerk's desk, one old chair knocked over. Behind the desk, a key ring. Keys for rooms. 101, 102, 104, 105, 103 was missing. There was no key for 103. I stared at the ring. My stomach turned. The motel hallway smelled stale. Wallpaper peeling. Carpets threadbare. Doors numbered 101 through 110. The door to 103 was shut. The paint around its edges chipped. There was no sign it had been used recently. No dirt on the knob. I lifted my hand. Felt sweat. I knocked, no answer. I stooped, listened at the door. Silence. The hallway stretched away. I glanced toward the stairwell. Shadows in the corner moved, or maybe I imagined them. My heart throbbed. I turned the knob. It yielded. The door creaked inward. The room was empty. Bed made neatly. Sheets clean. Dust layer heavy enough. The smell was odd. Metallic. Cold. The window was closed, but the heavy curtain pulled to the side so a sliver of light came in. Through that sliver I saw grass, weeds growing beyond the parking lot over the curb, cracking concrete. I walked inside. I went to the bed. No signs of anyone recently sleeping there. Pillows plump, uncompressed. No personal items. No shoes, no luggage. Closet empty. Bathroom light broken. Mirror cracked. I peered in the mirror. My reflection. A shape behind me. I turned. Empty. I went back. The mirror held just me. I felt a chill. My breath misted somehow. I touched the mirror. The crack deepened, almost like a wound in glass. I pulled back. I leaned near the window. The glass was cold under my palm. Outside, the sky lightened. The rusted motel sign swung faintly in the wind. A car passed in distance. I closed the curtain. I backed toward the door. Then I heard it. A voice whispering, "Marion." I froze. It came from the bathroom, steps. My skin felt the hair stand. My throat caught. One slow step at a time, the bathroom door creaked open outward. No lights, just darkness behind the threshold. The tiles glossy with age. The air inside smelled of mildew and something iron. I stood still. Then a shape moved, silhouetted by the sliver of light from the hall. Pale, wet hair, legs long, she came out of the shadows. No shoes, skin slight, her eyes bright like moonlight on water, her mouth parted but no words, her arms loose at sides. I could see a streak of something dark staining her dress, black as though dried blood or shadows pooled. She tilted her head. I only heard one word, why? Her voice was soft but keen. It echoed weirdly, though she was inches away. I backed away. She followed. No sound of feet, only movement of dress across carpet. Suddenly she was there, close. So close I felt cold seep into my bones. Her breath may have touched my cheek. I turned to run. I slammed into the hallway, into the light. She stayed just at the bathroom doorway. Then she vanished. Nothing but darkness where she stood. My heart pounding, I left the room. I closed the door gently, locking it. I stayed in the hallway a minute, listening. Silence. I walked back to my truck. Door unlocked. Thunderclouds gathered overhead. Lightning flickered in the sky, though dawn brightened. I drove back to town awake now, more alive than any moment before. But dread had sewn itself into me. That night I came into the studio early. I paced the fan word. I kept glancing at the clock. Midnight came. I was ready. I told the control room I might have to leave early. They told me they trusted me. They said call if needed. I said I would. 2:15 in the morning. I played music. I read listener mail. I told jokes. I tried not to remember room 103. Then the phone rang. I answered, hello, I said, my voice steadier than before. You're on air, silence. I thought maybe it was a prank, then a woman's voice. Familiar. You came. I knew that voice. Marion. Marion, are you okay? There was a scrape, a gasp, the sound of fabric dragging. I told you not to come. Her voice low, damaged. What is this? I asked. I felt like I was slipping. She coughed. You listened so well. I waited. I leaned close to the mic. The studio's window showed nothing outside but dark shapes and the faint glow of street lamps. What do you want? You want to help others? I needed help. But you came, she paused. I realized the static under her voice was different. It was under me now. In that room, I asked, Marion, are you in room 103 again? Yes, her voice soft, distant. I never left, as though the motel room had swallowed her, as though her body decayed behind its walls. I could hear dripping. Cool water, blood? I couldn't tell. The static hissed louder. Then she started to laugh. Not full laughter, but something broken. Mechanical. Why did you leave me? She said. Why did you leave? I gasped. My hands shook. I scanned the room. The studio felt too small. The lamp seemed dim. The air felt viscous. Marion, I'm sorry. I didn't. I came tonight. I paused. I came back. She laughed again. Black humor, twisted. The static crescendoed. The signal broke. The music extinguished. The equipment blinked out. The red light died. The studio plunged into darkness so complete I couldn't see my hand before my face. My mouth dry. My mind racing. Then the phone line cracked. Her voice seething. You see me now. Something scraped at the studio window. A blade of shadow dragged across the glass. I smelled rotting wood, old plaster, decay. A low groan like someone scraping nails under fingernails across a blackboard. I tried the lights. Nothing. I tried the mic. Static. She whispered, look. I turned in the darkness. Something shifted. I saw through the window a shape reflected in the glass. Pale, wet hair, empty eyes, dress stained. She stood just outside, so close. No streetlights between. Just dark, watchful. I stared, rooted, her face pressed near the glass. Her eyes burned with expectation, betrayal, pain, mouth open in silent scream. She tapped the glass with fingertips, soft at first, then harder until the glass rattled, crack lines spidered. I saw white, the phone dropped. I reached for the lights. The lamp beside me flickered on. Reveal her inside the studio with me. She stood behind me, tall, impossibly still, her head twisted. I could sense a smell, iron and something sick. I whirled around. Nothing. When I faced back toward the window, she was there. Between me and the dark outside, between me and the faint bulbs inside, she opened her mouth. Void darkness. I heard a sigh. A terrible, endless sigh. She moved forward, stepping inside, though no door opened. Her dress fluttered across floor without sound. Her fingers brushed my shoulder, cold as grave earth. I looked down, no wound. My skin intact, yet I felt the pressure, the weight of her sorrow pressing down. I stumbled backward, pulled the cord for the lamp. The bulb burst. I fell to my knees. The phone cut out. The static stopped. The darkness swallowed me. I curled, trying not to scream, trying not to move. My heart was a hammer in my ribs. And then I felt ice, wetness, something crawling over my back as though fingers dragged. The air grew heavy. I smelled decay. She whispered, "Don't leave me." I looked up. She was leaning over me, face inches away. Her eyes yellow in the sulfur light, mouth ajar. I saw the inside of it all. Her teeth crooked, her tongue fractured. "Stay," she said. "Stay with me." My world tilted. I could no longer tell if I was breathing or imagined breath. My vision swimming, I crawled forward toward the door. I slammed it open, ran clawing through hallways, through lobby, out the door. The temperature changed, warm air slapped me. I ran to my truck, started the engine. Doors locked. I turned the radio on, static. Then a familiar voice, my own show. Music warbled, and then Marion. "Why did you leave me? Why?" I slammed the radio off. Headlights caught the motel sign. It flickered. The V missing. Mouth agape, I stared. Then I saw behind the glass door the shape. Her pale face pressed, screaming. No words, just raw grief. I drove off. I swerved on Route 14 through darkness, fields, and woods. The moon behind clouds. Sweat cold on my neck. I could still feel her breath, her fingers, the press of her sorrow. At home, I locked every door, every window. Lamps on, phone in hand. I lay awake, listening for whispering. For static. For footsteps outside my room. Still the phone rang. I answered. A brittle voice. "You came." In the darkness, I saw movement at the window. She stood there behind the glass, eyes fixed on mine. Mouth open. A soundless plea. I hung up, silence, yet I waited. In the quiet, I heard laughter. Soft. Broken. Waiting. In the morning, the sun rose. Light spilled through curtains. Shadows receded. Yet I knew that at night, room 103 remains. Marion remains. She calls. The walls remember. The darkness guards those lost within walls and broadcast. I see her in reflections. I smell her in stale air. I feel her hands in my skin. The radio station never sounded so hollow. Each night I come into the studio. I wait for the phone to ring. I wait to hear Marion. Because how long can a voice linger before it becomes truth? Because some calls never end. Because some rooms never empty. Because she is there always. Story number 2. I remember the first time I saw my face and did not recognize it. I woke up flat on my back, morning light seeping through cotton curtains that I did not choose in a room I did not pick. I lay frozen, mouth dry, heart hammering. The bedside clock read 6:12. The air smelled like old wood and something metallic, copper maybe. My throat felt thick. My hands resting by my sides looked like hands, but they did not feel like mine. I swallowed. I blinked. I reached up and touched my own face. The skin was smooth. The cheekbones too prominent. The lips too full. The eyes too unguarded. I rose and stood in front of the tall mirror across the dresser. Sunlight struggled through lace curtains, turning the room golden but not warm. My reflection stared back and I paused. For a moment I thought someone was watching. It was me and not me. My hair fell in soft waves around my chin, though I always kept it straight before. My nose was narrower. My jaw sharp. My eyes larger than I remember. The color was the same green, but deeper, less forgiving. My lips parted. I tried to speak. My voice was my voice, though softer. A question came and died in my throat. My name is Rebecca. At least I believe it is. I turned away and went to the bathroom connected to the bedroom. Tiles cold underfoot. I flicked the light switch. As the bulb sputtered on, it revealed my face again in the mirror over the sink. I touched my jaw, my cheek, my eyebrows. "Who are you?" I said aloud, though no one answered beyond the hum of the ancient water heater. The mirror reflected exactly what I saw before. The same stranger's face. I knelt and checked under the sink, found nothing unusual. My toothbrush, my comb, the toothpaste, all mundane. But something had changed. For the first day, I thought it was some trick of sleep. A nightmare persistently lodged in waking. I forced myself to eat breakfast. I made coffee. I monitored my expression in every reflective surface. Windows, spoons, even the polished oven door. Everywhere that face was there. Not mine. My husband Paul noticed. He kissed me goodbye as I left for work. His kiss felt off. His hand lingered on my cheek longer than usual. He said, "You look beautiful this morning." I nodded, though I wanted to cry. I peered at him, waiting for a reaction. He expected praise for his coffee. I mumbled something about not sleeping well. He nodded sympathetically. We all feel like that sometimes. He did not ask what I meant. He did not notice I was not me. At my job in the county clerk's office, I stared at my reflection in the glass barrier between me and the public. I processed driver's licenses and property deeds. I signed my name, Rebecca Martin. The signature curled at the edges the way it always had. My coworker, Gloria, said my name. She complimented my earrings. She didn't say anything about my face. After shaving, eating lunch, making polite small talk, I realized no one seemed to see the stranger. As if I had always looked this way. At home that evening, I found photos on my phone. Graduation pictures, family outings, shots of me with my hair straight, jaw softer, eyes smaller, cheeks rounder. I held the screen and pressed the image. I rubbed the area around my eyes. I backed away. These were my memories. My friends. But in the photos, my face was mine as I remember. The person in the photos was me. Then how come the mirror held someone else? The next nights I began to dream. Not vivid, not cinematic. In the first dream, I walked along a dirt road by dusk. Trees skeletal lace overhead, branches whittling the sky. I carried a suitcase. My reflection appeared in broken shards of road puddles. Not my face, but hers. I whispered her name, though it felt strange. She whispered back. Her voice unfamiliar. I awoke with a jolt. My pillow damp and heavy. The metallic damp stench again. I tried to speak with Paul. I said, "Something is wrong." He asked me to elaborate. I looked in the mirror. I opened my mouth. I touched my eyes. I could feel panic, sweat, tingling. I told him how I see someone else's face now. How I recognize everything else, my house, my bed, my memories, but not this face. He frowned. He traced a finger along my cheek gently. "Rebecca, baby, I have no idea what you were talking about." "That is your face," his eyes anxious. He tried to smile, tried to mean it. I wanted to believe him. In the following days, small things grew wrong. I tried to call my mother. On the phone, she said, "You look so different in these pictures. Is your hair new?" I said I got highlights. She said yes, of course. I asked her if she thought I always looked like now. She hesitated. "Well, no. But time changes people." I hung up. The rain inside me grew heavier. At work, I refused to eat in the break room. I sat alone, sharp fluorescent light overhead, walls bland. Between files, I checked my reflection in the tinted glass walls outside. The stranger's face peered back. I tried to smile. My mouth felt heavy. My lungs tightened. I spoke to the mirror surface. "Stop it, go away. Let me be me." Nothing changed. A week passed. My skin still this stranger's skin. I could not sleep without seeing her in dreams. My dreams started involving voices. Sometimes I heard knocking. Sometimes laughter, low and teasing. In my dreams, or somewhere between dreams, I heard my own name and another name. Marion. I thought perhaps from some TV show, some character. I searched Marion. I found a Marion Ellis old obituary in the newspaper, remote town in Maine. I closed the browser. The face looked nothing like me. Eyes different, nose broader. But I felt something tug in my chest. The name echoed in my ears when I closed them. One afternoon, I visited Dr. Stanton, the family physician, someone who had known me since childhood. I told him about the face, about memories, about strange dreams. He examined me. He looked at charts. He touched my skin, palpitated lymph nodes, examined my eyes. All normal. He asked questions, sleep patterns, diet, stress. I admitted to being exhausted. He leaned back. He said, "You might be experiencing misrecognition delusion. It is rare. It is psychological. We will try therapy." I asked if he thought I was crazy. He paused. He answered, "In part. Under stress, grief, trauma, the mind sometimes betrays itself." I left with a prescription for sleep aids, an appointment for therapy, a sense of relief that maybe I was not completely broken. That night I slept with lights dimmed. Still, I woke at 2:13 a.m., the sound of water dripping in my bathroom. The moonlight through the windows lit dust motes like fireflies. I stood. drawn toward the mirror in my bedroom, drawn to the reflection, yet afraid. The stranger stood behind me, visible in the glass. Her face inches from mine, her hair wet and dripping, her lips parted. She whispered, "Marion." My heart seized. I spun. My bedroom behind me was empty. I turned back. The reflection only me, my eyes wide, my chest heaving. I touched the glass. It was cold, solid, just me. But the echo of her voice lingered. Therapy sessions were worse. They asked me to draw my face before and after, to sketch memories, to recall childhood, to locate loss, to examine grief. I thought of my mother dying 6 months ago. I had buried her under snow. Cold was in those last days. I had not wept until the funeral. I had forced tears. I had gone through motions. Guilt crawled under skin. Maybe that guilt changed me. Maybe guilt warped reflection. I told the therapist all of this, how I felt my grief lodged inside me, how my mother's mirror in the hallway showed faces skipping across its surface. She listened carefully. She said sometimes our minds project loss into identity. She gave me meditation exercises, grounding, breathing. She asked me to trust people who say I am myself. I tried, I believed them. But when I looked in my mother's hallway mirror in my house, I saw something else. Something curled in the shadows behind the reflection. She stood in that shadow, pale, watching. My life continued outwardly normal. I answered phones. I drove to work. I paid bills. I cooked dinner. Paul said I looked tired but improved. I smiled when I could. I tried to sleep. I avoided mirrors. I avoided photos. I refused to look at myself. I covered mirrors with sheets, draped towels. I closed bathrooms' doors. I tried to ignore what was happening. But her presence grew, in mirrors behind me, in windows while driving, in reflective surfaces in restaurants, always there, always slight, always wrong. One night I came home late. There had been a fire in a nearby town. I left work early to help. I was muddy, smelled of smoke. I turned the key. Paul was asleep. I crept to the bathroom to wash up. I flicked on the light. Mirror cracked. The crack in the center. My face, both faces, split by that fracture. She was on one side. I looked into the crack. Her eye glowed greenish by the bulb. She touched the cracked glass with slender fingers. I recoiled. The glass trembled. When I pulled back, glass settled. Just me again. Shaking, I washed, but saw no water on my face. No soot. I left the light on. I could hear whispering coming from the sealed bathroom door. I edged along the hallway. The whisper was Marion. I clutched the wall. I stood there until dawn. The next day at work, I avoided windows. I asked Gloria if she saw something on my face. She frowned. She said, "I think you got sunburned, maybe." Paul said I looked pale. Dr. Stanton said appearance is subjective. I nodded. I pretended to believe them. But I could not pretend to believe my own eyes. Then one evening I was in my kitchen washing dishes. It was raining. The windows beaded water. Thunder muted. The room dim. My reflection in the sometimes rippled glass of the water in the sink changed. For an instant I saw a face I had never seen. Long cheekbones, hollow cheeks, deep black hair plastered in damp strands. The eyes terrifying, fixed on me from the water's surface. I gasped. I dropped the plate. It shattered in water, sharp shards. Red light from plug-in nightlight dancing across shards. I stared, then gone. Silence, just rain. Just my breath catching in my throat, I began to keep a journal. I wrote about what I saw in dreams. Dreams of Marion Ellis, of a woman lost in cold Maine woods, her face washed by lake water, screaming and drowned. I wrote of my mother's death, of guilt, of what I could not remember, of grief. I wrote of waking with bruises I could not explain. On my forearm, the skin purplish when I woke. I asked Paul. He said he must have bumped into something. I did not believe him. I counted hours of sleep. I measured time by symptoms. I tracked every face I saw, every reflective surface avoided. I drew the stranger's face from memory. I saw in my sketch how wrong it was, how her eyes too big, how her brow overshot, how her hair wet though mine was dry that morning. Then came the day the therapist called me. My heart leapt because I thought this might be something real. She said we were making progress. She said the identity confusion was decreasing. I felt hopeful. That night I slept and terror came. I awoke answering my own name, though not my voice. I was standing in the hallway outside my childhood bedroom. The door open, moonlight pure. The room empty. My mother's old rocking chair moving. Soft squeak. I stepped forward, though I did not want to. The chair rocked more furiously. On the bed lay a body curled fetal, face turned away. I crept in. The body made no sound as I knelt beside it. My fingers trembling, I reached to turn it over. The face was hers. Marion, the woman from dreams. Wet hair, pale limbs, eyes closed shut. Mouth open, no pulse. Skin cold and clammy. Something thick on her neck. I reared back. I screamed, though no sound came. The rocking chair stopped. The moonlight faded. The hallway behind me vanished. I hit floor. I air gasped. I woke in my own bed, drenched in sweat, blanket thrown aside. Paul beside me. He stirred. I said Marion's name. He said, "It's okay. You were shaking." He touched my forehead. I pushed him away. I got up. I went to the bathroom. Light on full, I stared. My face the stranger. And there was a smear of water across the mirror with the outline of lips, though I had not touched it. I rubbed it. It would not wipe. My heart pounded. Cold streaks slid across my skin with sweat or tremors. I knew then I could not trust anyone to see me, to believe me, or to know what this was. I knew that perhaps the stranger in the mirror was more than projection. I knew maybe I had exchanged identities. I told Paul I would go away for a while. I left town, rented a cabin by a lake in northern New Hampshire, far from everything. Snow already grubbed the edges of the forest. The lake frozen thin. Pines bowed under heavy snow. I hoped isolation might help me ground. I hoped winter cold might freeze whatever was inside me. I locked myself in. I did not allow mirrors or shiny surfaces. I covered windows. The cabin was old but solid. Wood stove crackled, water boiled in kettle. Outside silence broke only by creaking trees and wind against frozen water. On second night there I awoke to scratching on the door. Something small, desperate, something clawing. I held breath. The wood panel rattled. I whispered, "Who's there?" No answer. Silence. I stayed rigid. The lamp dim. I felt eyes on me. Something in the corner of the room where the covered window sat, shadow deeper than dark. I shivered. The face in mirror came in memory. I whispered, "Marion." The scratching stopped. I exhaled. I drifted back to sleep. In the morning, everything looked peaceful. Snow white on pine, frost on window panes. Inside, I made tea bread. I checked my reflection in the small metal spoon. Stranger's face. I touched the spoon. It buckled in my fingers. Something wrong with the reflection. I dropped it night after night, unwound in this cabin. The dreams grew louder. Marion called. Sometimes she sang lullabies I never heard before. Songs about children, rivers, cold moons. I could not remember melody. I woke shaking. I saw footprints in snow outside, though I had gone nowhere. Shadows darted across tree line. At the window where moonlight edged beneath the covers, I saw her face pressed against glass, fogged by breath. I dared not look again. Then one night I saw myself leaving the cabin. In the pale moonlight I saw Rebecca in the yard. She walked down to lake. Her reflection clearer on the ice than in glass. Stranger face. She knelt. She stared. Then she plunged face first into frozen lake. I watched, rooted. She broke through thin ice. A splash, no scream. I raced outside, boots sinking in snow. I reached the broken ice. Water cold under my gloves. I peered down. Under the surface I saw eyes pressed against underside of ice, watching up at me. Mouth open. Lips moving, though no sound. Then the ice cracked. I slipped. The moon blocked. The world spun. I fell. When I came to, I was inside cabin. Stove cold. Candle snuffed. Snow piled outside door. My body numb. My face soaked, no idea how. I touched my face in the dark. Stranger's skin cold but there. I knew I had gone to lake. I knew I touched water, I knew. But I did not know whether I lived or dreamt. I could taste ice in my throat. In the morning, Paul called. He sounded distant. He said the police had found my car abandoned on Route 17 near the lake. He said no one had seen me. He said he was coming to get me. I told him I was here in cabin. He said he would come. I closed the door. I heard his boots crunch in snow. He entered. Cold air behind him. He said, "Rebecca, thank God," relief on his face. He asked me what happened. I searched his eyes for recognition. I asked him if I ever looked different. He knelt. He said he loved me. He said I was always me. I wept. I let him hug me. He smelled like gasoline pine. I closed my eyes. Then I felt something brush my hair. Wet hair, lips at my ear. A whisper. You left me. I screamed and pushed him. He fell back. I turned. The stranger stood behind him, visible in his reflection in the cabin window. Her face pale as bone. She wore Rebecca's clothes. She smiled with eyes like ice. Paul did not see her. I screamed. I backed away. She moved across the room without sound. Her hand reached for me. I tried to run, but the cabin door slammed. Paul rushed me, crying that she isn't real. I saw in his eyes confusion, fear, love. I clung to him. I told him I saw Marion. I saw her tonight. She said, you left me. He said it was my mind. I said it was her voice. He said I should rest. I collapsed, shaking. In the light of morning, I woke in cabin alone. Paul gone, the door wide open. Snow tracks leading into the woods, small prints, barefoot. I followed them. Through the trees, snow deep, branches scratching. Under moonlight rechristened by dawn. The prints ended at the lake. Ice broken. The hole wide enough to drown. I stared. Then I saw the footprints around the edge of the hole in mirror-like water pooled nearby. Not my boots. Something barefoot. And face pressed in snow. I stumbled. I screamed. Echo died in cold pines. I ran back to the cabin. I locked the door. I barricaded windows. I found my phone had one message. Just today at noon. From an unknown number. She has your name. I stared at screen. My face in screen dark. I dropped the phone. It shattered. I knew then I would never be alone. I realized I had become Marion. Some part of me always was. Guilt, loss, identity surrendered. Rebecca maybe disappeared. The reflection might be the only thing left. In stillness, when night comes, I see her entirely. Not a stranger, but me. Or what I am now. I pack a bag. I leave the cabin. I drive without destination. Mirrors covered. I refuse lights. Radio static fills car speakers. A station comes through. Voice whispers, Marion. I hit power. Static bleeds into silence. In a motel off some highway, I check into room 103. I look in mirror. Hers, mine, mixed. I breathe, and the face moves. I trace my reflection. I touch the glass. Her hand touches glass too from inside. I scream, the phone rings. When I answer, the voice is mine, but deeper, softer. The voice says, you woke up with someone else's face. I drop the phone. It cuts off. In the mirror, she smiles wide. My real eyes wide in horrible recognition. I wanted to scream, to run, to vanish. But I cannot, because I stayed, because I became. When morning light seeps under the curtain, I open the door. In the hallway, I see blood. No idea whose. Red and bright. The door of 103 across the hall cracked. I look through, empty. Yet on wall a smear of handprint. The shape of a woman's face pressed into plaster. Her lips parted. Eyes open wide. And in the bathroom mirror, as I recoil, I see Rebecca. My hands shake. The reflection shifts. I remembered her name. I remember Rebecca. But she is gone. I touch the mirror and feel nothing but cold glass. I back away into the hallway. There is no one else there. Only the echo of the name. Marion. I walk out. The motel sign blazes overhead. Crestview Motel, room 103. The wind carries my whisper. Rebecca. No answer. Only the hum of neon. The reflection in the dusty window blinds me with a face not quite mine. I close my eyes. I open them. The face is hers. I touch it. I realize I am the stranger looking back. I realize the price of losing a face is never having one at all. Story number 3. I set out to tell you this because it still haunts me. The way sound moves in a forest, how a whistle cuts across the pines and seems to echo back from everywhere. If you ever hear a whistle in the woods at night, do not answer. Do not move toward it. I wish I had known that, but I did not. I live in a small town in upstate Vermont called Green Hollow. Green Hollow is quiet in the way that rural towns are quiet once dark falls. There are old maples along the roads, wooden fences sagging, farms with barns rotting, and thick forest all around. Forest that goes deep, mixed hardwood, hemlock, birch, cedar. I grew up hiking those woods, camping. watching sun set behind treetops, breathing in pine resin on wet bark, thinking nothing dark or unnatural could hide in places so familiar. It began in July, early summer when the woods are fullest. My friends, Tom and Daisy, suggested a weekend backpacking trip. We'd hike the Turtleback Trail, a 14-mile loop through forest, ridge, creek, a waterfall people like, though fewer camp there than they used to. We were in our late 20s, fit, confident. I packed a tent, stove, food, headlamp, sleeping bag. We drove up Friday evening, parked at the trailhead, loaded our packs. The air smelled of moss and fresh rain. As we started into the woods, dusk pulled gold and shadow through the trees. Insects buzzed. Birds fluttered into cover. We followed the trail with steady steps, joking, catching up after work, stress, city noise. At first, everything was unremarkable. Creek crossings with wet stones, moss slick underfoot, the smell of decomposing leaves, that cool, damp earth scent. By mid-evening, we set camp near a clearing, shot off from a bend in the trail where the trees open enough to see stars and hear wind loose in the canopy. We built a fire. Shadows lunged away from flame. We laughed, cooked, ate. Night came swift. Cicadas, then crickets. The forest settled into creaks and rustles. The nearest road was miles away. Ours was the only sound for a long time. Then I heard the whistle. It came after we'd extinguished the campfire embers and were leaning back on logs, sipping hot tea. Daisy startled. "Did you hear that?" she asked. "What?" I said. A faint whistle, long and then broken, like someone trying to mimic the wind or an owl, but not really. It moved, seeming to come from somewhere deeper in the woods, then closer, then further. One note high, then sliding, echoing. Daisy said she thought it was the wind. Tom said maybe an owl or a bird. I said maybe, but my skin felt tight. We listened. Birds stopped. The nighttime insects dropped a register. The forest quieted. The whistle came again, exactly mimicking Daisy's laugh. High, light, trailing off. She gasped. "That's my laugh," she said. "Probably just your mind," Tom said, trying to be kind. I said nothing. The whistle came again, maybe 200 feet away, soft at first, then closer. It answered every sound we made. When I cleared my throat, the whistle wandered back, copying. When Tom spoke, it echoed. I felt the hair on my neck lift. We packed quickly, slept poorly. In my sleeping bag, the night was thick. Sweat cooled and stuck. The whistle haunted dreams, imagination dragging me toward unseen things. I woke once to the whistling outside the tent, low just beyond the flap. I wanted to peek. I didn't. Morning came too soon. Light through pine needles, sun-warming damp ground. No sign of people. No clue what had whistled. Branches overhead still dripping from earlier rain. We tried to laugh it off. We moved on. Over the next hours, the trail climbed. Ridges, steep slopes, waterfalls, moss. I told them of old local stories I'd heard. Not real tales, just warnings. Myths the older folks told children. Don't whistle at dusk. Don't follow the sounds at night. Voices call you, but they are not you. I always thought those were for silly campfire chills. Tom listened, asked if I believed them. I said I didn't. But after the whistle last night, I felt something shift inside me. That night, we camped near a stream bed. Moon waned. Stars clear. I couldn't sleep. I heard the whistle again, longer, more plaintive, more urgent. It drifted in from somewhere up the hill like a song asking to be answered. Daisy stirred. I whispered, "Do you hear that?" She nodded. Tom shushed us. We listened. The sound seemed to circle the camp, tracing trees, whispering on the breeze. The water in the stream gurgled. Things moved in underbrush. Leaves cracked, twigs snapped. Daisy said quietly, "Let's ignore it." Tom said yes. I didn't say anything, but inside I had already started walking toward it. I wanted to see what was there. I hated that I wanted to. At around midnight, I slipped from the tent, taking my flashlight. I said I was going to look for water upstream. I left it low, batteries dim so the light didn't carry far. I moved through forest, wavering beam, wet leaves, trees tall, roots like hands clutching soil. The air cold near creek. I heard the whistle. Low, now rhythmic, deeper. My boots sank in mud. Mist hung low in hollows, water dripping. My light caught something, a mossy stone, then a downed tree. The sound followed me. I turned. Shadows between trees. I thought I saw someone standing, pale, slow, just beyond light. Then gone when I moved. My breath was loud, my heart pounding. I told myself it was a trick of moonlight, wind and leaves, my mind. but I pressed on toward the sound. It was calling my name, a whisper or whistle of my name. I stopped. I looked up. The trees overhead, black masses. I tried to catch that shape again, nothing. I felt watched. I heard breathing, though I expected silence. I shined light on dark hollows. Webs glistened. Insects scuttled. Nothing living walked. Then I saw feathers tangled around a branch, white, long, elegant. Not from any bird I knew here. They glowed pale in the flashlight. My skin crawled. I backed up. The whistle rose. I turned to run. Mud flew. Underbrush ripped at my pants. The sound chased me. It fluted and laughed. I slipped, fell by creek, cold water soaking through clothes. I lay there staring upward. The whistle very near now, echoing my voice, then stopping. I scrambled back to the tent. Tom and Daisy were awake. They asked what happened. I stammered. They shone lights. We stayed awake, listening till the edge of dawn. We packed quickly. We tried to stay ahead of the sound. I straight-lined toward the trail exit. But as we walked, every time one of us called out, "Hey, over here! Daisy! Tom!" The whistle answered exactly. When Daisy laughed, the whistle copied. When Tom cleared his throat, same note. I felt hands of wind tugging at clothes. Branches brushed skin, though nothing visible pressed. Our shadows elongated in our headlamps. By the third night, we camped in a burned-out ridge. Trees blackened, skeletons of trunks. The moon sometimes shadowed by clouds. My dreams twisted. I saw a cottage in the woods, decayed, windows dark. A woman at the threshold. Pale skin, long hair, eyes hollow. She whistled. In the dream, I called her name. She turned. I saw not her face, but mine, distorted in mouth, skin stretched. I woke screaming. Tom shook me awake. Daisy crying. Morning. I discovered my arms scratched, raw, though I didn't remember brushing anything. I felt tired in bones. On my backpack, I found one feather, the same kind as before. White, long. No bird around, I held it. My hand shook. After that, we argued. Daisy wanted to leave. Tom said, "Let's finish, don't chicken out." I agreed with Daisy, but felt drawn to see the end. I felt I needed to. On the last night, we intended to reach the trailhead. We made camp near a clearing at ridgetop. Wind tight, branches leafless overhead, stars cold, fire small. We ate quietly. I kept replaying the whistle. In the quiet, I wondered if it was always there, hidden. It was late. Wind dropped. Insects silent. The night so deep I could feel shadows breathing. We heard the whistle come from the dark beyond the clearing. Clearer. It whistled a melody Daisy used to sing as a child. I froze. The pitch was wrong, crooked, something unnatural in it. But I recognized the melody. She gasped, covered her mouth. Tom grabbed her hand. I shined flashlight into darkness. The beam caught nothing but trees. The whistle stepped closer, now behind a tree. Now in front. Now all around. Then Daisy's voice, first in question, then panic. "Who are you?" The whistle stuttered in response. It mimicked Daisy, but something else. Something old. Something not her. Then I saw her. Or thought I saw her. A pale woman standing at edge of tree line. Clothes torn, hair matted. Lips pulled back in something like a smile. She lifted a hand and whistled a note that made blood cold. Daisy screamed. The woman's eyes were wrong, all black or too bright, I couldn't tell. She moved toward us. Branches snapping underfoot, though snow not there. Though ground dry in patches. Tom swung his hiking pole. She paused. Tilted head. The whistle answered him, then Daisy, then me. The sound was everywhere. We fled. Packs dropped. Headlamps swinging. Daisy crying. Tom shouting. I tripped, fell. Landed face first in dirt. I looked up as the pale woman loomed. No face, just wide-set eyes and teeth glinting. Whistling. She stepped close. I could smell something rank. Mildew, wet earth, rotting things. My chest felt tight. My lungs wanted air. I screamed. Tom pulled me up. We ran down through trees that clawed at us. The sound pursued, mocking every breath. We reached the trailhead just as lightning cracked far off. Rain started. We piled in car. Daisy sobbing. Tom silent, eyes wide. I turned back once. Through windshield, I saw her silhouette at tree line, still whistling. Then the trees swallowed her. Back in town, people listened politely when we told the ranger station about a woman, a figure, strange whistling. The ranger said likely someone trespassing or a prankster's echo, possibly whined in hollows. Local legend, yes. Warnings from old folks about following whistling. People disappear sometimes in the woods around here. Old newspaper clippings. But no proof. For weeks I felt off. Nightmares with that face. I heard whistling when walking to car, no source. In mirrors at home, in backyard, I thought I saw a long pale figure behind me. But when I turned, nothing. My dreams greeted me with her song. I started avoiding the woods. I checked locks, windows. Still I heard whistling. I asked Tom if he heard it too. He said only once, then stopped listening. Daisy moved out, couldn't sleep. I stayed in our apartment, haunted. One night I woke to the whistle so loud I thought someone was standing at my bedroom door. I tried to call 911, my phone line dead. I turned light on. Shadows pressed against windows. There was a silhouette. Long hair, bone pale. She stood on porch railing. She raised her hand, whistled. I could feel fingers curled into wrist. I screamed. I leapt out window. Scraped skin, fell, pounded knee. I ran into the street. It was pitch dark. No houses, only woods. I heard footsteps behind running, the whistle behind me matching each step. I reached the highway, flags glowing in distance. A car passed. I flagged it. Driver stopped. They asked if I was okay. I whispered, "She's here." They stared. Rain pounded roof. I said I must leave. They said yes. I drove that night fast through winding roads. The forest seemed to lean in. Rain plastered to windshield. Whistling on radio static maybe, or wind. I did not know. In daylight I returned. I saw footprints at doorstep. Mud. Leaves. Feather. Daisy's melody carved into porch wood. My heart froze. I burned that wood. It did not go. Months later I never returned to the woods. The trail remains. People hike it. Birds still live. But in my dreams I whistle back. In my mirror I see her face in profile behind mine. Pale skin, wrong eyes. I wonder sometimes if that's what drew me. If the woods always waited for someone curious enough. If you ever hear a whistle in the woods, do not follow. It will answer every call you make. It will mimic you. It will want to become you. It will lead you away from everything real. I know this because I followed once. Because now you hear me trying to silence the echo. Because it still follows. Because it never stops. Story number 4. I had just turned 17 when I took the babysitting job at 47 Maple Drive. My parents trusted me. Neighbors said I was responsible. I needed the money for college applications. The house was in Hartwell, New Hampshire, a sleepy suburb where lawns were neat, streetlights amber, children seldom out past dusk. The house belonged to the Ramsey family, Grace and Martin Ramsey, parents of 2 small children, Lily, aged 5, and Ethan, aged 2. They called me at 6 in the evening last minute because Grace's sister's flight was delayed. "We'll be back by midnight," she said. "Just make sure you stay awake if Ethan cries." I said yes, packed my bag with a book, snacks, phone, flashlight, just in case, and arrived as dusk was falling. The Ramsey house on Maple Drive looked unassuming. White siding, black shutters, 2 stories, a large oak tree shading the front lawn, a walkway of flagstones. The front door creaked when Grace unlocked it. Inside, it smelled of fresh baked bread and faint shampoo scent. Lily was already in her pajamas, reading in the living room. Ethan toddled around, pulling at a stuffed lion. I greeted them both. Set down my bag, made plans. Bath for Lily, bedtime stories, feeding Ethan, then cleaning up dishes. Music low on the radio. Cozy. Grace kissed both children, thanked me. Martin gave me money, said, "Be careful with the stairs at night." I smiled, confident. As night came, I bathed Lily in the upstairs bathroom. The water hot, steam thick, wood floorboards underfoot creaked. Lily was chatty, telling me about school and favorite cartoons. Ethan fussed in the living room. After the bath, I tucked Lily into her bed, closed the curtains. I read her 2 books, sang a lullaby, left the door ajar, motion light outside clicking. I came downstairs. Ethan was asleep in his crib. I checked the time, 9:47 p.m. I ate some leftover bread and cheese in the kitchen. The refrigerator hummed. Outside, a breeze rattled branches against windows. I heard thumps upstairs, Footsteps or settling wood. I paused listening. Probably the old house settling. I told myself not to worry. Later I washed the dishes, drying them, the faucet drip-drip echoing in the quiet house. I turned off the radio. Silence felt thick. I cellophane wrapped the leftover cheese, threw out the bag. When I turned toward the hallway, I saw a shadow move by the stairs. I froze. Thought maybe Martin had come back early, but no car lights outside. I called, "Hello?" My voice sounded small. No answer. I tapped the light switch. Hallway dim, yellow bulb. The shadow gone. I shook my head. Too much coffee today. I went back to the living room, sat on the couch, turned on the TV, children's show reruns, soft laughter. Around 11:15 p.m., Ethan woke, crying softly. I went upstairs, carried him down. He calmed with a bottle. Then he pointed at the wall, at a seam in the drywall near the ceiling, said, "That man." My heart jolted. I looked. Wall seam where two plaster sheets met, paint slightly cracked. Nothing there, no outline of figure. I asked lightly, "What man, sweetheart?" He didn't say more, just repeated, "The man." Parents always warned me some small kids see things. I smiled, comforted him, only half believing. I brought him back to crib, rocked him, checked monitor to see if Lily asleep. She was. I turned off lights in bedrooms, left a hall nightlight on. I went down to kitchen, got water, thinking water will steady me. I sat at kitchen table with glass of water, the house breathing around me. Wind tapping at window panes, heating vents scuffling air, floorboards creaking overhead. I looked at clock, nearly midnight. The parents were due back soon. I considered calling someone, or at least texting my friend that everything seems okay but odd, but I thought calling might sound childish. I drank the water. I put on a lamp in the living room, flicked the TV off but left mute on for static ambiance. My eyes drifted up to a vent high on wall. I could swear I saw movement behind the grill. Something shifting. A dark shape. I rubbed my eyes, looked again. Nothing. Only the faint outline of vent slats. Black inside. Then I heard it. A scratching. Soft, persistent, coming from the walls. Behind them. Inside? It was above me, in the second-story hallway, like nails scratching plaster. I thought of mice, termites. I told myself natural causes. But every time I thought that, the scratching got louder, more impatient. The drywall itself seemed to thrum. Cold draft seeped in through baseboards. My skin prickled. I stood, water glass in hand shaking. I pressed ear to wall near stairs. The sound stilled. I dropped my hand. Ethan cried again, echoing. I breathed. I told myself this is nothing. You'll be fine until the Ramseys return. The minutes passed slowly. At 12:27 a.m., I sat watching the clock. Nothing. Then I heard whispering. Low voice, indecipherable. Not from the monitor. Not in hallway. Somewhere behind walls. I stood, turned, listening. The house felt tight. Air cool. I heard footsteps overhead. Lily's room? I froze. The monitor picked up crackling static, then dead. I pressed volume up, silent except for hiss. I thought, maybe power surge. Suddenly, Lily's door creaked, plank hinge squealing. I bolted upstairs. Lily sat up in bed, pale, eyes wide. "You promised to stay awake," she said softly, her voice small and clear. I blinked. "Stay awake what?" I asked. "The man in the wall." She pointed. Wall near corner across her door. I listened. I heard nothing but my pulse. But the wallpaper there seemed to tremble. The seam lines of drywall shifting like lines on a map being erased. Lily got out of bed and came to me trembling. I hugged her, asked if something hurt. She said she was scared. I offered to sit in hall with her until parents returned. She nodded. She lay back, I sat in the doorway, door slightly open so hall light glowed. I watched that wall, imagined every possible monster behind it. I stayed there until Lily drifted asleep, breathing shallow. After she slept, I went back downstairs. I looked at each vent, baseboard, wall panel, cold drafts behind them. I put hand on drywall by kitchen wall, felt cold. Felt vibration. It was subtle. My flashlight beam lit along baseboard, shadows feathering. I leaned in, heard whisper soft, "Watch." My heart leapt. I recoiled. I flicked on light. Nothing, just kitchen tiles, toaster, counter, refrigerator humming, clock ticking. I tried calling Grace. No answer. Martin. Voicemail. I texted both saying everything is okay. No answer. Phone battery low. The house felt too quiet, waiting. I sat by the front window, looking out at streetlights, silhouettes of trees, quiet lawns. My eyes drifted back to door frames. I felt as if someone stood just outside field of view. I felt watched. At about 1:45 a.m., I thought I saw a figure in living room corner. Tall, slim, shape against the wall. I froze. The lamplight flickered. When I blinked, gone. I stood, flashlight trembling. Shone it across room. Nothing. Just coat rack, floorboards, shadow. I told myself I was seeing things. I told myself fear makes mind project. I climbed stairs to check Lily, to reassure. Lily asleep. Ethan asleep. Both breathing. Monitor silent. I stood in hallway. Wallpaper at walls. Smells of childhood. Crayola. Powder. Old wood polish. The walls seemed to sway in candlelight of nightlight. I hurried downstairs. I felt something brush my skin near shoulder. I jerked. Nothing. Air cold. I hugged myself. No noise. I shut all doors. I covered vents with towels. I blocked drafts. I taped over small cracks near base of walls. I curled on the couch, staring at entrance to hallway. Thoughts racing. What if something lives inside the walls? What if it watches all the children who've lived here? What if the parents never noticed? What if it lingers after each child leaves? I tried to sleep, half reclining. Sleep evaded me. The TV blinking in stand. Clock, digital red. 2:53 a.m. My laptop battery low. I turned it on, looked up stories online. People claim sleep paralysis. Shadow people. Creatures behind walls. I felt foolish. But some said scratching. Voices behind sheetrock. I shivered. I read until eyes hurt, then turned laptop off. Just when I thought I might rest, a loud thud came from upstairs near attic. Bone-deep sound. Floorboard warp. My breath caught. I held still. Another thud. Then whisper. Down. My name. Down the stairs. I wanted to run. I wanted to call 911. I grabbed phone. My hands slippery. I heard footfalls overhead, slow, deliberate. Not Lily's or Ethan's. Heavier. Something large. Something not living but alive in its own wrong way. I edged back toward front door. I could feel cold under my shirt, as though someone breathed down my spine. The footsteps marched quietly down the hall above me. I heard wood creak, the overhead hallway landing. Then silence. The house seemed to hold its breath. I stood frozen. Then a rasping sigh came from the wall above Lily's room. A sound of desperation, of longing. I gasped. I pressed ear to floor, head tilted, my brain screaming to flee. The wall behind me. I felt heat then cold, alternating, the paint seeming to ripple. The wood panel door frame warped, wallpaper stretched. A sound of nails scraping behind drywall. The house groaned. Suddenly the hallway light blew bulb and hallway plunged into darkness. Lamp flickered downstairs. I dropped the flashlight. It clattered. The power flickered. In darkness I heard a soft child giggle. Lily's voice, though she was asleep upstairs. "Play," she said. "He wants to play." My throat dry. I scrambled for flashlight. I shone light toward stairway. Steps leading up were black. I could feel breath in the air, cold and rancid. I gripped rail, tried to steady. The house shook slightly, like something moving within. I saw a shape at top of stairs, thin, pale, elongated, face hidden in shadow, limbs too long. It leaned forward, watching. Whispered Lily's name. "Tina!" I screamed. That was not my name. My own scream echoed. The shape froze. I pulled Lily from room, covered her mouth. She startled. I bolted downstairs with her in arms. Ethan clutched to me, too. I ran to front door, struggled with lock. Fingers numb. I threw door open. Cold night air hit. But outside was nothing but lawn, the oak tree, the streetlight illuminated empty driveway. For a moment I thought figure would follow, but saw nothing. I ran to car, slid in, locked doors. Lily and Ethan quiet, eyes wide. I breathed hard. Tears. I started car, headlights cutting driveway. The house stood quiet behind me. I drove without looking back. Tires cutting pavement, radio off. My hands shaking on wheel. I did not stop until I reached Main Road. I called parents. I said I had to leave. They told me to wait until they came. I kept driving anyway. Rain began, unclear sky, windshield streaking. I glanced in rearview mirror. House silhouette receded. Oak branches stretched, windows dark. I thought I saw a pale face pressed in attic window watching. Eyes black holes. But when I blinked, gone. I returned next day with Grace and Martin and police. We stood looking at house. Flashlights on at night. Walls quiet, no voices. No scratching. Upstairs attic space empty. No unusual evidence beyond old dark stains behind drywall. Small holes in sheetrock, foundation cracks. Cops said could be rodents or rats. Martin blamed damp mold. Gardeners said oak roots messing with foundation. Grace held Lily close. Lily said, "The man is gone." I wanted to believe, but at home I could not sleep. At my parents' house, mirrors felt wrong. Walls and bedrooms seemed to breathe. At school I saw shadows moving just out of corner. My dreams full of the man in walls scratching lifeless gaze. Weeks passed. Parents paid me and thanked me. I tried to carry on. My skin felt itchy around ears. I jumped at small noises. I avoided houses with sheetrock walls. I kept a hammer nearby, stripped drywall near walls to listen. I found nothing physical. One night many weeks later I got a call from Lily. I nearly dropped my phone. She said, "Tina, he wants to come back." She sounded small, unsteady. I said, "No, sweetheart, he is gone." She said, "He said I never left." I hung up. I sat in dark, hands trembling. The walls around me wept. The floorboards whispered. I felt breath behind drywall. I smelled damp behind baseboards. Wallpaper peeling in corners. I touched a crack in my own wall. Cold, tight, something under it moved. I placed ear to plaster. The faintest scratching. Then a voice low inside, rasping, "Stay." I ran. Out the door. Left town that night. Took the first bus to somewhere bright. Somewhere walls are brick or stone. I leave light on always. I avoid being inside alone. I sleep in rooms without attic above. I never babysit again, but still I hear the occasional thump when I enter an old house. I still feel cold drafts in corners where no vents are. I sometimes wake to a child's whisper calling my name, always telling me he watches from behind the walls. I regret ever agreeing to stay awake. I regret ever entering that house at 47 Maple Drive, because I learned something. Within every wall lives something that cares. Something that remembers every child. Something that waits. And once it knows your name, it never forgets. "Tina!" I screamed. That was not my name. My own scream echoed. The shape froze. I pulled Lily from room, covered her mouth. She startled. I bolted downstairs with her in arms. Ethan clutched to me, too. I ran to front door, struggled with lock. Fingers numb. I threw door open. Cold night air hit. But outside was nothing but lawn, the oak tree, the streetlight illuminated empty driveway. For a moment I thought figure would follow, but saw nothing. I ran to car, slid in, locked doors. Lily and Ethan quiet, eyes wide. I breathed hard. Tears. I started car, headlights cutting driveway. The house stood quiet behind me. I drove without looking back. Tires cutting pavement, radio off. My hands shaking on wheel. I did not stop until I reached Main Road. I called parents. I said I had to leave. They told me to wait until they came. I kept driving anyway. Rain began, unclear sky, windshield streaking. I glanced in rearview mirror. House silhouette receded. Oak branches stretched, windows dark. I thought I saw a pale face pressed in attic window watching. Eyes black holes. But when I blinked, gone, I returned next day with Grace and Martin and police. We stood looking at house. Flashlights on at night. Walls quiet, no voices. No scratching. Upstairs attic space empty. No unusual evidence beyond old dark stains behind drywall. Small holes in sheetrock, foundation cracks. Cops said could be rodents or rats. Martin blamed damp mold. Gardeners said oak roots messing with foundation. Grace held Lily close. Lily said, "The man is gone." I wanted to believe, but at home I could not sleep. At my parents' house, mirrors felt wrong. Walls and bedrooms seemed to breathe. At school, I saw shadows moving just out of corner. My dreams full of the man in walls scratching lifeless gaze. Weeks passed. Parents paid me and thanked me. I tried to carry on. My skin felt itchy around ears. I jumped at small noises. I avoided houses with sheetrock walls. I kept a hammer nearby, stripped drywall near walls to listen. I found nothing physical. One night many weeks later, I got a call from Lily. I nearly dropped my phone. She said, "Tina, he wants to come back." She sounded small, unsteady. I said, "No, sweetheart, he is gone." She said, "He said I never left." I hung up. I sat in dark, hands trembling. The walls around me wept. The floorboards whispered. I felt breath behind drywall. I smelled damp behind baseboards. Wallpaper peeling in corners. I touched a crack in my own wall. Cold, tight, something under it moved. I placed ear to plaster. The faintest scratching. Then a voice low inside, rasping, "Stay." I ran. Out the door. Left town that night. Took the first bus to somewhere bright. Somewhere walls are brick or stone. I leave light on always. I avoid being inside alone. I sleep in rooms without attic above. I never babysit again, but still I hear the occasional thump when I enter an old house. I still feel cold drafts in corners where no vents are. I sometimes wake to a child's whisper calling my name, always telling me he watches from behind the walls. I regret ever agreeing to stay awake. I regret ever entering that house at 47 Maple Drive, because I learned something. Within every wall lives something that cares. Something that remembers every child. Something that waits. And once it knows your name, it never forgets. Now nights I dread sleep more than death. I have tried staying awake many nights in a row. Soon I fall regardless. The walking, the whispering, the return. And every morning I wake in my own bed but not dreaming. Something else came back with me. I feel eyes inside me that are not mine. I feel skin beneath skin twitching. My voice sometimes shifts in the mirror. My reflection blinks oddly. Mouth moves slightly when I don't speak. I look close. I find teeth sharper. Eyes darker. Sometimes I speak in mirror and voice sounds not quite mine echo husk. I don't know how many days I have lost to sleep. I don't know how long I've been walking woods at night. I do not trust dawn anymore. If I sleep, I disappear for days in memory. If I stay awake, I fail. They said medication might help. Therapy, lights, locking doors. None stop it. Whatever walks in woods in my sleep, whatever whispers in tongue, it promises return. It promised I belong. It promised I gave my word. I remember nothing before morning. I see its shape sometimes by trees. Pale, elongated, limbs wrong. It watches me when I awake. Tonight I lie here. Lights on, door locked, windows shuttered. I feel cold breath drift through closed window crack, though I sealed it. My phone low battery. Storm outside. Trees scraping siding. Whispering in wind. Names I can't recall. Then a presence over my bed. Something stands visible only in shadow. I hear wings beat or cloth drag. It says in voice mine and unmine, "You returned." I open eyes, nothing. But I feel its hand ice on my skin. I know what came back inside me. I know I no longer own my sleep. They will find out. Or maybe they already have. Maybe I already disappeared for 3 days in my sleep. Story number 6. I was invited to Clark's funeral home in Pine Ridge on a Tuesday, though it felt wrong in ways I could not name. I work in logistics, deliveries, and schedules, rarely interested in family affairs, in death beyond the tasks. But my Aunt Marjorie had died. She had no children, few close friends. I was next of kin. The invitation said, "A service for Marjorie Pierce. Pine Ridge Countryside Funeral. Let us remember." I expected a simple wake, maybe family, the pastor, hymns, tears, then normal life. What I found instead stayed with me in every waking moment afterward. Pine Ridge is remote. Rolling fields, abandoned barns, dirt roads that cut through knotted forest. The funeral home sits at the edge of woods, set back behind tall maples that twist branches across its windows. The building is pale gray clapboard, with windows curtained in heavy burgundy velvet not letting light out or in. The sign is old, painted by hand, Clark's, caring for souls. The parking lot is gravel, cracked by weeds. I arrived late afternoon, the sky pale, a sun low behind clouds. Inside, the smell is thick with incense and polished wood. The casket is open. Aunt Marjorie's face calm, pale, lips closed. A few mourners, an uncle, one cousin, a neighbor. They sit in wooden pew-like chairs in the parlor, arranged in a semicircle around the casket. Flowers around her, lilies, roses, white chrysanthemums. Soft hymn playing somewhere, organ pipe somewhere beyond a thin wall. I say quietly hello. They murmured condolences. Everything normal except the air, too still. Sound seemed swallowed, even breathing hushed. I take a seat in the back. The pastor begins with words I've heard before. We come to remember, to honor. But when he prays, his voice cracks. Something behind him seems to shift. I glance at the walls. Wood paneling, dark stain. Behind me a whisper, so soft I thought it my own mind. I look, nothing moved. I swallow. The service continues. Bible verses, a reading, prayers. The clock shows 5:16 p.m. Light through windows dimming. Outside I think I saw shadows among the trees like someone standing just beyond window glass. Could be branches. Could be a person. I do not turn. After the official part, the pastor invites those who knew Marjorie to speak. My cousin Amelia talks of childhood with Aunt Marjorie, picnics, kindness. Uncle George speaks, voice low, shaking at times. I stand at the end, speak about her kindness to me, how she taught me to bake bread, how sometimes she laughed too loud, how I will miss her. After I sit, heads nod, tissues dabbed. The sky darkens. Something about dusk here feels active, alive, rather than peaceful. They light candles. One by one, people are given candles. We all stand. The pastor says we'll stay until midnight saying prayers, singing hymns, reading scripture. I glance at my phone. It's 6:45 p.m. I'm tired, but I stay. There's coffee and cake in the corner behind folding screens. People whisper. Half expect that once midnight passes, the funeral ends, we go home. But no one suggests leaving. The candles flicker. Shadows dance across faces. The wood floorboards under my feet creak whenever someone shifts weight. At about 8, the pastor invites more hymns. A man I don't know stands to sing Amazing Grace, his voice deep. The room echoes. Curtains of heavy velvet keep outside dark. I hear wind gust outside, rattling window panes. A candle guttering. A low moan almost beneath the music, like someone struggling to breathe in the wall behind the casket. I pause, listening. Someone near me shifts. The moan stops. The man sings on. I pretend I heard nothing. We are told to stay. The pastor says Aunt Marjorie's wishes were modest but rooted in faith. Scattered references to the family's history. Mariners, say, who died at sea. Ancestors lost in wars. Mothers buried in unmarked graves. Something in those stories smells like not knowing. Like a past refusing rest. One elder mourner, Miss Lillian, says quietly, "They do not leave." Not here. I thought metaphor, grief speak. I did not speak up. The candles flicker again. One blows out, no breeze. Someone relights it, midnight comes. Others who expected relief glaze at the pastor. He smiles, looks at clocks. Says we'll sing one more hymn, then rest. But as we sing, I realize I have heard this hymn before at Clark's some 10 years ago when someone else died. A cousin, maybe. And stayed late for prayer. The same tune, the same organ, same cracks in paneling, same voices. And as this hymn ends, the pastor invites the dead to rise in love, in spirit. I listened in confusion. Invites the mourners to kneel. We all kneel. The candles low. I feel the floor under my knees soft. Something wet beneath cloth. I glance down. Nothing but carpet. I close eyes, think of Aunt Marjorie's kind hands. Afterward, there is silence. Outside the windows, the woods rustle, though no wind. One mourner stands, looks out the window toward trees, whispers, "They are out there." Someone squeezes hand. Candle flame wavers. I shiver, cold even though the room is warm. I touch my forearm. Skin goose pimply. I saw movement in wood paneling behind speaker's podium. A shape, pale, elongated. I blink, nothing. Perhaps light glare. I try not to think. Hour by hour we continue. The next hymn, the next reading. Someone recites Psalm 23. Someone else reads letters people sent to Aunt Marjorie. Some grief, some love, some regrets. We share cake again, cold now, stale by taste. Coffee bitter. The window's entirely dark. At about 2:30 a.m. I stand to stretch legs. I walk near back wall. Curtains drawn. Paint peeling. I notice framed photographs, old funeral services from decades ago. Faces kind, solemn. In some, people holding candles in the same room. The identical chairs, same paneling. I realize the photograph frames show funerals held in this very room through decades. All similar. Same room, same chairs, same wood panels. Same people? Different faces, but posture, arrangement. The dead in caskets. The living kneeling, candlelight. All night. Midnight. Sunrise. One photo, sepia, shows a service dated 1945. Another 1950. Another 1978. Another 1986, 1991, 1999. In each, the mourners appear to be the same people, same spouses, same families, older, younger. I see Miss Lillian in many, Uncle George in many, my Aunt Marjorie in several, holding candle, standing even though dead. I feel bile at back of throat. Are these pictures of hallucinations? Or something else? I hold the frame, dusty, glass cracked. I drop it, it thuds. The sound echoes across empty chairs. I hear someone crying behind me. I spin, no one. I sit again. As the hours pass, I see the dead bodies. Not just Aunt Marjorie's, but others I don't know. Coffins along walls, small identifications. Eleanor McKee, 1912. Robert Pierce, 1923. Unknown infant, etc. The caskets are empty, or I catch glimpses of empty, hollow lids or silhouettes of people kneeling inside them. I cannot tell. The pastor guides people in prayer. I kneel though my knees ache, though fear floods my bones. Someone else kneels beside me. They are crying. Candle flames stretch skin shadows on walls. At about 4:45 a.m., as dawn remains distant, I hear whispering, soft voices between hymn verses, in French and Old English and tongues of old people. Something in them asks for more. Someone behind mourners murmurs, "One more soul." The pastor pauses. Lights flicker briefly. No electricity signs, but candles steady. Someone coughs. I see an elderly woman raise hand, ask pastor, "Are they here yet?" The pastor replies, "They will come." The woman nods, resigned. I realize I expected someone to come as well. I wonder, am I that one more soul? My heart pounds. I think I hear singing, but no music. Hymns without organ, voices without bodies. The sound seems to come from behind walls, from under floor, from rafters. I cover ears. But singing spreads. Soft at first, then louder. Not quite melody, more chant. Echoes behind wood paneling. The floor vibrates. Candlelight sputters. A shape moves beyond stained glass window. Something standing just outside, watching. I glimpse a pale figure, slight, translucent behind glass. Then gone. People begin to settle. Some head nodding, eyes closed, others whispered prayers. I try to stand, tell someone I need air. They look at me blankly, tears and reverence mingled. Miss Lillian takes my arm, presses candle into my hand. "Stay," she says. They wait, her voice cracks. I feel drawn back to casket. The pastor says another hymn for Marjorie, reads rising. I stand, through body heavy. We all stand. Candlelight around the room, tremors in air. Then suddenly the front door creaks. Outside, branches tapping. A wind that couldn't be through thick trees. The wind carries voices. Children laughing, sobbing, unknown names. The mourners all turn to door. The door opens slowly, though no one touched it. White light spills in. A tall figure in white, face obscured, eyes glowing faintly in candlelight. The figure glides past the threshold into the hall. The mourner nearest me gasps. The pastor says name, but I don't hear it. The figure approaches Aunt Marjorie's casket, raises arms. Candle flames stretch, lean. The floorboards moan. The room air smells of wet earth and decay. I see Aunt Marjorie stir. Lips part, eyes open. Nothing like her eyes in life, wide, black at edges. She climbs out of casket, body stiff. Dresses in funeral gown, pale as cloth. Walks down center aisle toward the gathering. The hush is absolute. No hymns now. No prayers. Only her footsteps echo on wooden floor. She stops before me. I try to move. My legs won't respond. She stares. Mouth opens. Something unnatural rises. A voice, my voice, mixed with hers. She says, "One more." I hear a choir behind me. Mourners kneel again. She lifts me by the shoulders, cold fingers. I taste metal, taste fear. Then light. Dawn outside breaks through windows with pale blue glow. The shape flickers. Aunt Marjorie's face melting into candle wax, into flame. Door slams shut. Figure recedes. Mourners gasp. Candlelight dies one by one. I fall backward. Someone catches me. We are bathed in sudden harsh morning light. I stagger outside. The world smells of pine and dew. Birds begin their song. No sign of figure. No open door. Windows of funeral home dark. I hold Aunt Marjorie's hand. Hers but rigid, dead again, or so I thought. Someone touches my shoulder. Miss Lillian stands by me. It is done for now, she says. Until night, I run. I leave my car, keys all behind. I sprint down dirt road. Gravel bites at shoes. I don't look back. Trees overhead look alive, branches like fingers reaching. I run until the funeral home is far behind. By the time I reach Main Road, I collapse, coughing, heart burning. A truck passes, lights bright, I flag it. Driver glances at me, sees tears, candle wax in my hair, face pale. They drive off. I don't care. Weeks later, I cannot sleep. I dream of that figure in white, Aunt Marjorie walking, hollow eyes. At my house, I hear hymns faint through speakers, though I listen to nothing religious. I wake to find small candles on my doorstep, unlit. I take them in. They smell of wax and earth. I see photograph of Clark's funeral home in newspaper archives. Old grainy shot from 1978, with a line of mourners in same chairs, same arrangement. In every one my aunt appears, alive or dead, I cannot tell. And faces of people I know, many of them in every generation, older, younger, still kneeling, all repeating. I tried to tell people. They say grief, stress, imagination. I see their eyes glaze over. I stopped going to church. Hymns remind me. Funeral processions enrage me. Candlelight in dusk triggers panic. My sleep interrupted by footsteps, whispers asking, one more soul. I hear a lullaby in voice not mine. One moonless night I drove past Clark's. Lights on inside. Curtains drawn, I parked. I saw figures through windows, people kneeling, candles, a coffin. A live service, midnight. I watched through glass. Aunt Marjorie seated among them, alive. Or undead. Then she turns to look at me. Eyes black in candlelight. She smiles. The door opens. She steps out onto porch with candle in hand. I feel drawn, I step forward. She beckons. Come join us. I panicked, jumped in car, sped away. Behind me in rearview mirror, I swear I saw silhouettes following down dirt road. Hymns faint, candlelight glow behind trees. Now I live elsewhere, but I cannot escape. Somewhere, Clark's funeral home sits waiting. Night after night, the service proceeds. The dead in their coffins, the living joining, torn between grief and fear. And every night I hear it in my dreams. One more soul is needed. One more, I wonder, am I already part of it? I write this to warn you. If someone you loved dies, be careful what invitation you accept. Do not attend the funeral at Clark's. Do not light a candle. Do not give thanks. Do not kneel when dawn has not come. Because the dead don't rest there. They perform. They remember. They wait for the next. And I fear they have already claimed me. I haven't lit a candle since. Even in the safety of cities, in rooms full of electric light and noise, I feel the pull. It starts around midnight. A chill through the vents, a whisper rising from the floorboards, the faint scent of lilies and earth. I close my eyes and I see her, Aunt Marjorie, standing at the end of my bed with that same hollow smile, her candle burning low. Her lips move without sound, but I know what she's saying. They still want one more. I've moved 4 times, changed my name twice, but the dreams always find me. The hymns return, warped and slow, as if sung through soil. Every time I wake, there's wax on the windowsill, a single dead flower at the door. Sometimes I think about going back to Clark's to end it, but I know better now. That place doesn't just take the dead, it collects. So if you ever get the invitation, neatly typed, no return address, smelling faintly of smoke, burn it. Do not go, do not grieve there. Let the dead stay buried, because at Clark's funeral home the service never ends, and once you've heard the hymn, part of you is already inside.